Greetings, fanboys and fangirls. Jared here with another video update / news, whatever you want to call it, video, all about this brand new Masters of the Universe Eternia's Choice vote that Mattel has going on to determine what the next Masters crowdfund item will be. Of course, I think this is actually a really smart thing because I think that if you're going to ask the fans to crowdfund something, it's probably a really smart idea to actually make sure it's something that most people will want. Looking back at my speculation video that I had made just a few days ago, trying to figure out what they would be offering, I got a few of the choices right, one in particular, but really it was a whole lot of things I just didn't expect. So sit back, relax, make sure you're subscribed and that you've liked the video because those things really do help us out as we go over the choices that were offered on Eternia's Choice, what I picked, and what I hope that you'll consider in your choice as well. So let's just get right into the very first choice that Mattel offered, and this is the snake lair. And this, of course, is based on some of that concept art, or concept mock-up, whatever you want to call it, from Masters of the Universe Classic. At that time, it was referred to as Lady Slither's lair, and was definitely meant to be her abode. What I like about the artwork that they shown here, that they'd prepared for this, was that it really does make it feel like a real companion piece to Snake Mountain and Castle Grayskull. I've always felt that the Snake Men were really missing their own kind of playset. And yes, it's true, Snake Mountain is the ancestral home of the Snake Men. However, it's just so associated with Skeletor at this point that I don't think anybody could ever really look at it that way. The Snake Men have always kind of needed their own thing. And I think that this really does fit the bill, so I was really glad to see this. I think that the concept looks good, I think it looks sizable, and that it would be a really fun playset if they went into production. I had a strong feeling that this would be a contender, as I said in my speculation video, because if you look at that Fangor artwork that I loved so much, you could definitely see it in the background. Here's a little bit better look at it. And you can see that it's pretty much fully formed right here, almost exactly the way that we would see it in that concept artwork we were just looking at. So I do think this is one that Mattel has maybe put a little bit more planning into than most people might expect or realize. So yeah, this one looks really cool. So the snake lair was definitely one that I expected, but here's one that I did not, and this is the Doom Tower. It is basically a big playset that's made to look like the Filmation fright zones that we would see in the Princess of Power cartoon. So this is a really neat idea. I think that it's a really cool techno-looking kind of Giger-esque nightmare of stuff, and I always really did admire those paintings in the Filmation cartoon. Like, those are really nice. And it just looks devious, as something for the Horde should. And it even has a facsimile of Hordak's throne that he would set on in the show. And so all of that looks really neat. And there's a neat little interior. You even get what looks like what Luke was hanging off of in The Empire Strikes Back there. So I think it's pretty neat looking. I think the one thing that really hurts this is obscurity. I think the thing that hurts it is that it's very specific. This is very much, you know, we want to do this cartoon version of this lair that did come out in the original line, but we don't want to call it the Fright Zone because we want it to be its own thing. This is the way it looked in like the Filmation series. It's definitely something that you could never really like completely capture in playset form, and I think that's going against it as well, because you've got something that you can certainly make it kind of a facsimile of that, but could you ever really make it look like this? I mean, it's a little too vast. I can't be the only one that recognized that Mattel probably called it Doom Tower on the Filmation Fright Zone because they somehow retained the copyright to Tower of Doom or something. Or maybe as an homage to their old Secret Wars playset. I'm not sure, but I bet there's some kind of connection. So even though I really like this, I think it's kind of a long shot. I'm not sure that this would get made. And to me, the interior doesn't even look all that extensive, which could be a problem. But still, I would love to see it happen eventually. Speaking of the Fright Zone, it's definitely the one choice that I was sure that we would have in this thing, and here it is. It is a very, very classic looking Fright Zone. Appears to be just straight up inspired by the original toy. You can see the hand puppet, or if they even would keep it as that, right over here with the dinosaur or lizard here. and the rock jaws monster, and the little dungeon thing, and the tree with the crows on it. So you can definitely see that this has a lot of potential. It doesn't look like it would be overly huge necessarily, but I think that it would do the job. Plus, I mean, honestly, I think most people just associate this with being the lair of Hordak way more than they do even the Filmation lair. So this is definitely one that I would like to see, and it's a shame that they have to do it in crowdfund, but you can just about bet, I would say, that this will probably get the vote. People always skew towards vintage and original products like this. And I always have to wonder if companies just purposely create more obscure choices around something that's traditional, knowing that people will just go for that traditional choice, because I think just as soon as they put the Fright Zone in here, it was a foregone conclusion that that's going to be what wins. To me, that takes away some of the joy out of the thing. I wish that they would just have enough confidence in the Fright Zone to not have to do it as a crowdfund, because I really don't think they have to. I think they could easily do this as a direct-to-market online product, or even get some stores to carry it. So for as nice as the concept looks, I'm not convinced it needed to be done this way. Color me shocked. I did not expect to see a Filmation-style gigantic attack track on this list. And certainly I didn't actually expect hardly any vehicles. But this was a cool surprise. Yeah, I actually thought this was a neat idea. Look, I've never been the biggest fan of the Filmation style of attack track. For one thing, I didn't grow up with a Filmation cartoon like a lot of you guys did. So you have to understand that it isn't, a nostalgia thing for me. But for a lot of people, it probably is. To me, it always kind of looked like a big giant van with tank treads. And maybe not the most Masters of the Universe thing I could imagine. I wouldn't be hurt at all, though, if this thing got it, because I would actually really like to own one of these. But the problem for me comes in what a footprint that this kind of thing would have. I hate taking up too much space just with a vehicle, and I feel like that they have given us a really good selection of vehicles just at general retail. I lean more towards playsets. Of course, this is what it looked like in Filmation, so you can see that it's pretty much a dead ringer. If you look closely, you can actually see that something more akin to the original vintage style attack track is actually kept in the back. And the windshield can actually come up so that you can put the figures in the front more easily. This is the vintage style attack track, and you can see that it looks practically nothing like the one here, and even the colors are reversed, so kind of interesting. This is probably the most surprising choice on the list, to have this Horde tank, because this was just, from what I understand, I even had to look it up just to be sure. I think that this is just an original concept that they created. My feeling is that some of the designers at Mattel were like taken aback by how cool that the Hiss tank was for classified and that crowdfund, and this was more made as kind of an ode to that. I really do like the design work here, especially the giant Hordak face, because I think that does feed into the kind of character Hordak is. He's extremely vain, and he puts himself on all of his stuff. So I think this is a great design. I really like this. I think this would be incredible to have. I really like showing how big it would be right here with a Horde Trooper, especially loading it out with the massive amount of Horde Troopers I already have. This would actually be really fun. I would call this one a dark horse choice for me. I would like to see it. I don't think it has as much of a chance as some of the other stuff, but I would like to see it. So it's probably already obvious the ones that I voted for, but my first pick is the Snake Lair. It was definitely my number one, and that was the one that I absolutely had to vote for. Coming in at second is the Fright Zone. Now, I hate that I ended up being one of these people to vote for the basic, generic choice that is probably going to win. But it's just the kind of thing to where it's like, yes, I also would like a vintage-inspired Fright Zone. If that's what you guys are going to do, I guess I'll vote for it. I'd like to see the Snake Lair win more. I think that would be better. But those are my two picks. And that's the interesting thing about this Survey Monkey survey that they have up, is you can pick two. And I'm not 100% sure how they're verifying how you're voting, because I try to get back into it, not to vote again, but to take like another screenshot, and it was like, you already voted. So maybe it's through a Google account or something. It's like seeing that you're signed in. So if I had to advise you on what to vote for, definitely vote for that snake lair. I think that, or Lady Slither's lair, or whatever you want to call it. I think that this is the coolest thing because you're getting the opportunity to get a playset that would be a great match to Castle Grayskull and Snake Mountain that would work for all of those Snake Men figures. And keep in mind, now we have just a massive amount of Snake Men from Mattel thanks to the rise of the Snake Men in 2023. And I could think of no cooler area to display them all in. So this would be just a dream come true for me. Like I said, begrudgingly, my second choice is the Fright Zone. I think the Fright Zone has the vintage chops and would make a lot of people happy. But at the same time, you know, it's kind of a shame they're choosing to do it this way when really it doesn't need it. All these other things are things that probably would need a crowdfund, but not this. Probably didn't sound like it when I was talking about it earlier, but honestly, I guess my third choice would be the Doom Tower. I really do think the Doom Tower is cool looking, even though it can't necessarily capture the scale and grandeur of those original Filmation paintings. I think that it would truly be a bizarrely cool thing to have. And even though it really wouldn't be a good counterpart to the other playsets, because this really, you know, it doesn't open and fold out and all that, or at least not that I can tell anyway. Maybe it does and I'm misunderstanding the drawings perhaps. I still think it would be cool because it would be a place where I could put all the Horde maybe a little more effectively or without as much limitation as the Fright Zone. So I think that this would still be really great. I doubt it'll win though. So let me know down in the comments, what did you pick? I mean, did I make the correct Eternia's choice by selecting these two? Did you select the exact same two? Maybe one of them. Who knows? Maybe you had something completely different. I would also love to hear your top 5 choices and in what ranking that you would put these things in, because I think that this is going to be very subjective and definitely it's not going to please everybody, whatever they end up picking. Here's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that maybe, just against hope, that since they asked us to pick 2, maybe they should pick 2 as well and say, hey, we're going to launch this one first, and then we're going to come around and launch this other one later on. I don't know. I just think that that would be a fine gesture since they are asking us to pick 2 as well. All right, friends, be sure to subscribe, like the video if you can, because that really helps. And as always, God bless you and yours. And I'll see you on Fanboys Forever. Fanboy out.